So how could the driver have prevented this skid, and how could they have recovered it once it started?
Oh shit!
Let's look at the cause of this skid and therefore prevention, and after that recovery. So the first thing we're going to look at is load shift, sometimes erroneously known as weight shift. And if we've got a car statically like this, in this case it's a Ferrari F40, it's a mid-engine car, most of the weight is on the back axle, which I've represented with a larger arrow here and a smaller arrow there. When we accelerate, and I'm going to exaggerate this a bit for clarity, we get a load shift towards the back. So there's kind of the same effect as more weight on the back axle and less on the front, although that's a load. Now that's important because the amount of grip changes. We've increased the amount of grip on the rear here, reduced it on the front compared to what it was when it was not moving static. And when we slow down, which could be braking or engine braking, which is simply coming off the throttle and allowing the car to slow down using the effect of the engine, then the reverse happens. We get more grip at the front and less grip at the rear, which is important. Now if you listen to this clip and look at it, you'll hear that there's a sudden increase in revs, and that means that the car's accelerating. So it's in this position, we've got a lot of weight over the back axle, and then you hear the revs massively decrease, and I think there the driver's basically floored it and then just come straight off. And what that has done, that has pitched the car from going forwards to nose down like this, and massively changed the grip on the rear from a lot of grip, increased grip over static, to less, and then that has started to that's really the main cause of the skid. So more load, more grip, and I've exaggerated a bit for scale. What do? Well, you've got to lift off slowly. If you accelerate harshly, then yeah, that can actually skid as well. But once you've accelerated harshly, you've then got to come off the accelerator gently, or maybe change up a gear and come off the accelerator that way. If you have this harsh on and off movement, that's what will happen. So we've got a sudden lift off and load grip change. Possible other contributing factors, aged tyres. I probably doubt it in this case. Reason being is, whilst there seemed to be a lot of tread on the tyres in various photographs, this is a high mileage F40, so probably went for a fair few tyres. Damp road, potentially, I'm not sure how wet it was, but that definitely would have been a contributing factor as well. And maybe the tyres were more designed for speed, they weren't warmed up yet. It's hard to know, but you've just got to look at all these risk factors whenever you drive a vehicle like this. Now, you've got to look at when the driver applied the brakes as well, and that is part way through the skid, and this is just the point after we've applied the brakes. We can tell by the brake lights. Now, a couple of things going on here. When you apply the brakes in a situation like this, when the car is already rotating, you're actually going to make the situation worse, and the reason for that is twofold. One is that you are further making the car pitch nose down like that, and then that will reduce the grip available on the back axle, which is already skidding, remember. And secondly, because you're now braking it, you're actually increasing the grip demand, and therefore you're even more likely to spin the car. So basically, when you're in that sort of situation, applying the brakes will make the problem worse. If you are going to apply the brakes, jam them on really, really hard, so all four wheels lock, and then the car should spin down the road. If you apply them half-heartedly, that's absolutely the worst thing you can do. You can also simply not apply them at all and steer out of it, as we'll demonstrate in a moment. Okay, so recovery, if it does happen, and you need to do this before you get to this point, that's for sure. Okay, so what do you notice about this sequence of photographs? This is the first time we can see the front wheels of the car. You notice they're pointing straight ahead, where the in line with the rear wheels. In other words, the driver seems to have kept the steering wheel dead straight. Again here, driver's steering wheel seems to be dead straight, and again well, maybe that's just turned just a fraction to the left now, but the car's already skewed about 45 degrees, and you can start to see a bit of body roll happening now as well. So it's probably almost unsavable by this point, but still the front wheels are pointing exactly almost straight ahead. And here's the thing, the car's going to go where those front wheels are pointed, and you can see that's the last second before it hits the curb or whatever it's going to impact with. it's turned 90 degrees, and it's turned 90 degrees even though the steering wheel has been kept straight because of that oversteer effect where the car's rotated in yaw, and the steering wheel is still pointed straight ahead. Alright, so here's what's going on and here's what you need to do. So there's the car, and I just put the tyres on the outside. It's basically skewing around like that to the point where it's turned 90 degrees. Now the blue arrows indicate where the steering wheels are pointing, and the yellow is where the car's pointing. As you can see, it's the same all the way through. Effectively, the front wheels are pointing straight, and the car is going to follow that yellow line. Here's what should happen. Start again from here. We get a disturbance, and here you can see that the steering wheels are pointed where we want the car to go, but the yellow line indicates that the car is actually pointed in that direction. Now if you can do that, then you are going to correct a skid, because even if you're an absolutely brilliant driver at figuring out risk factors, etc., there might well come a time when there's a little bit of oil here or a puncture or whatever else, and the back end of the car comes out. Happens to the best of us, and then you need to recover it. So you need to be very good at this skill of oversteer recovery, and effectively what it is just keeping the steering wheels pointed where you want to go, irrespective of where the car is. So if the car goes that way, you do that. Car goes that way, you do that. And the key thing there is to look ahead, well, look where you want the car to go, not necessarily ahead, but where you want the car to go, which might be out of the side window actually. Now I've got a complete video where I go through how to recover from oversteer skids. I'm not going to repeat that here, so please watch that for a lot more detail. But essentially, keep the front wheels pointed where you need to go. What you do with the throttle is a bit dependent on what got you into that situation. Generally you want to hold it about level, maybe slightly decrease, increase, but again that's covered in the other video. So summary factors then. Old cars, they do not have the electronic aids or the modern handling of new cars. So if you're not used to an older car without any of that, you have to treat it with a lot of respect, understand it and get some training. You've got to be aware of risk factors, damp roads, aged tyres, etc. And generally do not accelerate harshly then lift off, because that is a good way in a rear engine car, particularly a mid-engine car, to get into that sort of situation. And then also avoid engine braking if you can, which is where you just change down and then let the engine's rev drop, because that is in effect braking only the rear wheels and not the front, and that could be dangerous as well. And then learn oversteer prevention and recovery. So by prevention, what's likely to cause oversteer? Well, let's not get into that situation, and if we do get into that situation, learn how to recover it, and basically it's keep the wheels pointing and look where you need to go. So hope you found that video useful. Any questions, please use the comment section, and thanks for watching.